So welcome everyone. Thanks for being here with us on another instance of the IFE Living Lab and Data Hub seminar, where we look to present educational challenges and technologies to promote research in educational innovation. Today's seminar is titled, Follow Your Students Every Step of the Way, the Impact of Formative Assessment. And this seminar is going to be presented by Craig Jones, who is the CEO of Formative. He joined Teach of America and taught 8th grade science for 4 years in Los Angeles, helping his students achieve academic growth over time above the 99th percentile. After a fellowship under Los Angeles Unified Superintendent of Intensive Support and Innovation, Craig went on to earn an MBA from the UCLA Anderson School of Management. While at UCLA, he began building Formative, a formative assessment platform that allows teachers to see all their students' work in real time, track growth to learning standards, and intervene in the moments that matter the most. So without further ado, I give the floor to Craig. Thank you very much for being here. I'll stop sharing so you can share your own screen.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to get to do this session. I've also brought 2 people along with me from my team, Lily and Jonathan. And so they'll be able to help if you have any questions in the chat. And don't hesitate to send any questions at any time. We want to make this session as interactive as possible. Again, my name is Craig Jones, and you heard my background. I joined Teach for America. I taught for 4 years in South Los Angeles. I taught in a school that was mainly made up of immigrant students or families from Mexico and El Salvador. And we had record-breaking results in Los Angeles. Not only did the students achieve just astonishing academic growth, they also have gone on to do really amazing things around the world. But while I was teaching, I ended up building some software in my classroom that helped me be a better teacher. And it helped my classroom be more engaging and effective, and also helped me give feedback to my students faster. But also, more importantly, at times, it allowed me to get feedback from my students. And I think that's something that we need to talk about a lot more when we're teaching, is you should not be teaching to your students, you should be teaching with your students. And so without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and talk to you a little bit about how that software has evolved way beyond something that I built in my classroom into something that's now a company that works with thousands of networks of school districts around the world. It's become one of the most popular platforms for teachers in the United States. Over 90% of US school districts have teachers who've used Formative, and it's been used in almost every country that I can think of around the world. It's really grown beyond my wildest dreams. And so without further ado, let me show you what it is. So right now, you should be able to see my screen. You've already heard a little bit about what we built, but not necessarily where it is. It's a website. It's not an app, just a web app. It's at formative.com, or there's a Spanish version at es.formative.com. And if you go beyond there, we'll talk a little bit about why we think it's really helpful for you, your students, and for any educational research you might be looking to complete. So the main purpose is to see growth in real time. In fact, the entire mission of our company is to accelerate learning. And so what we built is an instructional tool that not only helps you teach and be a more effective teacher, but also helps you assess students and see growth and make sure that students are having transformational growth throughout the course of a school year. So let's try it. Without speaking too much more, let's just go right in and use Formative. So here we built just a very fun little Formative. I've actually got it already pulled up here. And it's a live session that you can join in right now. I'm actually going to post a message in the Slack channel for this call, if I can find where the window is. that has the link, but you can also join in right here in real time. Let's see. Here we go. I posted the link in the channel, and so is Lily. So you can join in right away. Thank you, Monica, for being the first one to join. And we've also got Jenny. If you simply click on that link, enter your first and last name, you don't have to do anything else. You can join into the session. And the nice thing about Formative is I can see who's already here, but we can also begin without waiting for everyone to join. So I'll give everyone another 30 seconds or so to enter into this Formative. And then once we have enough people joining in, we'll go to the next question. The little blink sound, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's very satisfying to hear everyone joining in. Wonderful. Well, the link will remain open, but we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. So I'm just going to click this little button. It's going to take us in live. Your screen now should have just a basic instruction block. There's no question here, but just in honor of the fact that it was just Dia de los Muertos, we're just going to do a quick little Formative that showcases some of what Formative can do, just as a really simple example. So I have this little toolbar here. This is called a teacher pace presentation. So I'm going to advance your screen. We could also give you an assessment where you can move at your pace. But here I've now switched to question 1. So hopefully everyone's screen is now updated. And you can simply answer, how are you feeling today? I can see a live count of how many people are answering with a nice little graph. I'm just going to jump over here and view responses and see here is everyone's answers for question 1. Someone's also sent me a message, I believe. But what's really neat about Formative is, I can grab a response and send a message. So in fact, I will grab a handful of people in this session and just send a message saying, thank you for joining today. I hope this session makes your day better. And just like that, I've sent a message now to all those students, and they can also communicate back to me as well. I think I saw someone already sent me a message here, so I can jump in and see their message, Donato Amigo, and other messages are coming in on red here. So we can make this more interactive, and I can spend time talking to each of you, but it's just a really interactive platform. I can also score responses. Obviously, these do not require a grade, but I could simply give it a score. If I click on student responses, and I can very quickly go through each of my students and score their work. I can also auto grade things. We can talk about that in a moment, but let me get back to the session. We'll go to question number 2. Your screen should have updated. And again, I get a nice little sense to see if it's working based on this. So we've started with just very simple multiple choice questions, but Formative actually has 30 different item types. So while most people are comfortable with multiple choice at the beginning, we can explore 29 more different ways to interact with your students. And again, I can follow your responses and see, most people are getting this right. It's auto grading. We also have some nice little graphs, so I can see who's getting it right, who's getting it wrong. I can actually click on everyone who got it wrong and send a message to these 2 students and say, close. I can also send funny messages like images, videos. In fact, I can record a video to send to these users as feedback just by simply clicking this button saying, this was a nice answer, but I think you can do better. Obviously a silly question here, but with a more sophisticated response, you can do a screen share, you can do a video, and just like that, you can send feedback that's more valuable to your students. And everyone else, I can send a message saying, great job. Or, an image that says great job or something like this. So we'll move to the next question here to keep going. I'm advancing to question 3. Question 3 is the first one that gets a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to come and look at the answers to question 3. So notice in formative, something very, very magical is happening on my screen. If you can look up, you can see as people are working in real time. There is no waiting for the student to press submit or to say that they've finished their answer. I can see as each person is thinking and solving a problem. And so here I could also hide the names so that no one feels embarrassed and everyone feels free to say how they feel. And again, we can do all kinds of fun things. Formative also has some very interesting features. For instance, Lily, if you copy and paste something into your answer from another website, let's see if I can identify this. I will get a notification. So if I come over to the totals view, if somebody takes a text snippet from another website and pastes it in, Formative will put a flag on that answer saying that they copy and pasted their response from somewhere else. Let's see, names, which is just one of many features that Formative does. I can also just demonstrate this really quickly myself by previewing as a student. So again, if I were to copy and paste something and paste that as my response, as the teacher, when I look at this response, you'll see this little notification here that tells you, be careful, this response has a copy and pasted answer. This is what the student pasted into their answer. So it allows you to kind of make sure students are, at least working with fidelity. I will move forward now to keep going here. So question 4 is a fun drawing question. You do not just have to scribble with your pencil to draw for question 4, but we can also upload images to your drawing. So you could literally upload a picture of your family and it will show up here as I look at the responses for question 4. I can see some people go right away to scribbling just to see if it works, but it is very nice to see live student response or pictures of people, or a lot of times if this is like a math assignment, the student will actually solve the mathematics on their desk and just take a picture holding the response. See, here's the first person to add an image. If you look at my screen. And what's beautiful about this is as students are working, they can do all the complexity on their piece of paper and then take a picture and you can record it. But yeah, or you can just have students do a nice little scribble, which the students get very creative at as well. And Monica, I don't know if this is someone just of your family or someone who's passed, but thank you for sharing the picture. So as you can see with Formative, you can do lots of different item types. Again, we're just, appreciate the picture and I saw in the chat, it's your brother. And so as we continue to, look at Formative, I'll move to the next question just to speed this up. Hopefully everyone is starting to think of different, grades and subjects that people can use to do like live sessions with their students, and how much more interactive this can be when the students pull out the device and all these answers are recorded over time. This one is a very simple question again, but this time it's showing off our numeric keyboard. So here, when I go to question 5, I can see how different people solve this problem. What's also cool is I can take an answer like this and I can grade it correct. And then Formative will recognize that this is an auto-graded question. And if I'm grading this correct, then I can add this to my answer key. So anyone else who says this answer will also automatically get it correct. So it saves teachers lots and lots of time as they solve these problems. And you can see how different students are thinking through this problem. You know, some people said 2 out of 4, some said 1 out of 2, 0.5, 1 divided by 2. They're all correct answers, and you can have a discussion with students as to, you know, different ways to solve the same problem. This the one that says 1 out of 4, though, I don't know if, oh, this is, I manually graded this, so I can override any auto grading that might have happened at some point. I also, one thing that's really fun with Formative is I can go back at any time and edit the questions right here and say 1 out of 4, this should not be correct. Let me remove this from my answer key. I can also, you know, change the question, say there was a typo, mistake that I had made. I can say, you know, ignore the blue one. And notice how I don't have to save my screen, but your screen is now updated with what I've written. Likewise, I can add another question immediately at any point in the formative without having to pause the session or stop. Everything in formative is completely real time and interactive. In fact, you can actually invite another teacher as well, who can also be grading with you or co-teaching with you and adding their own questions so that it becomes even more interactive. Again, I'll move forward to the next one. Number 6 is just a simple question for your email address. I won't share my screen on this one since this call is being recorded. But we'd like to be able to communicate with those who join the session afterwards to send more resources and information about Formative, and also just to talk more about what you're doing to see if there's any way we can help. So I see, I'll give everyone a few more moments to respond with the email address if you're interested. The other fun thing with Formative is at the end of the session, if I want people to go back, I can actually allow students to return to student-paced mode, or I can there's different things that I can do. For instance, I can return the scores back to the students and let them see their scores instantly, and so that it becomes more interactive. The next question here is, would you be interested in performing educational research using Formative? So the first question in English, but it seems like everybody is bilingual on this call. And again, I could add another question right here or change the question, but we wanted to show you that just one of the many, many use cases of Formative here is to do quick do nows, things to start your class to make them more engaging, or assessments at the end of class, quizzes. But we're going to talk a lot more about the power of Formative. This is a little bit more of the fun of Formative. And since this is the last question, just for a moment, in case someone wanted to go back, I'm going to transform this into a student-paced. And now anyone can go through any question at their leisure. They can scroll up and down. And again, I can go back to the formative results to view the responses and get a big picture view of how everyone is done within this formative. And to answer the question, Formative is free for teachers to use. You never have to put in a credit card if you don't want to put in a credit card, but we do have upgraded plans that you can be a part of. You can join a silver plan, which gives you more features for grading and giving feedback and more item types to assign to your students, as well as some other settings that you get when you assign formatives, different modes that you can assign a formative into. You can also do a gold plan, which is our best plan. And that allows you to do things like collaborate with colleagues and to look at data over time. going from each formative, seeing the growth that your students have throughout the course of the year, and all kinds of different things like anti-cheating, some of the other functionality that we may have shown here in terms of reporting that we'll go into in a moment. And the gold plan is only available for groups of teachers like schools and universities, whereas silver plan teachers can upgrade themselves. And then somebody said that they didn't get their answer to be flagged for copy and paste. In the event that you copied something from your own answer, it does not flag it for copy and paste detection. But if you copied something else, I saw a comment in here. Somebody sent a notification. I saw the message. I noticed the notification fly through, but I'm not sure who it was. But in general, we can make the copy and paste detection. There's different ways you can tune that. But in general, hopefully everybody gets a quick sense of how Formative works. So now that we've done this, I wanted to just stop the session. So at this point, I can unassign or pause or feel free to just close out of the session when you're done. Now I want to talk to you more about a real use case. So imagine you instead take a formative that is like a mathematics assessment, and you've sent it out. In fact, I'll join over here to edit it to see how it looks to send it out. So I can send it using simply this link. And this link will give it to other people in my school and make that so that they can assign the formative with their students. I can also add collaborators here directly and give them edit permission so they can edit, or simply assign permissions. Then when they use these, either you send it to them or they use this link, then when they send it with their students, as long as you are a school leader or someone who can view the data, you will not only see your responses from your students, but also all the other teachers' responses that you work with. So this is called a common assessment, when you want to share the same assessment with lots of teachers and then look at the data. So you can see this teacher has 4 classes of students. Within the 4 classes of students, he has these students and then these students. So there are a lot of students who took this formative. This teacher has these students. And what you can see is you've just given this assessment to almost, probably 100 students, and all the responses that have come in, so that you can start to look at data more comprehensively. The other thing is that these can be assigned, or each item in formative can be tagged to a standard or classification, so that you can not only just look at the results by, an item analysis, but each of these items can be tagged to specific standards or skills or classifications that you want to see if your students are doing better at. And so I've tagged these standards or classifications here just simply by coming here and typing, I can literally type the word that this is addressing. So if this has to do with like graphing, I can tag the classification. And then when I view the responses, I can group the questions by these classifications or standards. So now I can see that everything that was tagged with this classification, my students in general have an 84% outcome or result. And I can look at which students maybe are struggling with this specific classification or standard, or which students are doing well. And then additionally, like this standard was only on question 2. This classification was on these questions. And so you can start to group the data by specific items or tags that you are interested in, so that you can notice not just, oh, the student got an 85% today, but that they really are struggling with specific classifications, or some type of question they struggle with the most. And so the other thing that's really neat about this is you can look, and any of these numbers are clickable. So you can see in this school, on this assessment, we got a 76%, but I want a better understanding of the distribution. So I can see that my male students are doing a little bit better than my female students. In the United States, there's a lot of demographics or race-based questions, different questions about where the students are from, to see if they're working, across a large network. Maybe students in certain areas are doing better than other areas. And we can fill this with any data that we have about that student, so that you have a better understanding of the student growth. And I see a question about, is it possible to see students' progress? Yes, I'm very excited to say that it is possible to see the student progress over time. So you can see just very easily that, an assessment can be tagged to classifications. And then if you want to see the students' growth to standards, we have reports that you can jump to. So if we jump over to this report, and I will go the last 2 years. I think that I've left let me go back to this specific school district, because I was pretending to be a teacher at a different district, and that took me back to my own report. So I will jump to this behind the scenes tool to see this fake district. Sorry that I'm here. So I'm going to look at this organization. And so first, you can see here are all the assessments that you've given, the common assessments. Oh, just in the last 14 days, these are the assessments that have happened within this school district. So not only do you see one assessment, but you see a results on every assessment that has happened. And then you can jump into specific assessments by looking at individual teacher reports, or the teacher gets this report themselves. So for instance, this teacher was the one that we were looking at. If we view their tracker, this would be what they see when they log in. You can see here are some of the standards that we had tagged. I may need to expand the date here to run this report. But here are all the classes that this teacher teaches. And you can see each of the different classifications or standards grouped, and you can expand them to see how their students are doing over all the time that they've been in your class. So for instance, if we click on this student, these are the standards that they've done well throughout their year. Here are the standards that they're struggling on. And what's neat is there's a button down here to view the progress. And so you can actually click on each student and see their progress over the course of all the questions that they've ever answered tagged to any standards. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So for instance, you can see they've had 17 questions on this standard. Their proficiency is here, and their progress is actually going down. Although in this case, I think they answered all these questions on just the same day. So it's more just that it's been some time since you've evaluated this standard. But it's very, very, very powerful to see all the questions that they've ever answered associated with this standard over the last 2 years, and then see any growth. If they've done multiple throughout the last few years, you'll just see each day we'll have a new bar on the graph, and you can see if they're going up or down. So it's extremely powerful and very, very easy to use. I see that, is it possible to see progress? How for the same kind of items are you measuring feedback's effect? There are a handful of questions here that are so good. I want to make sure I answer each of them, but I'm going to continue for a moment here, and then we can go back and answer more questions. So as we think about formative, again, it starts at the beginning where you simply build a new formative. You can organize them into folders. So a lot of times the first thing I do when I show a new teacher how to use formative is I say, first, build maybe a team folder for the 5 teachers that work together. So let's say I build a science team folder. Then I go into this folder and I share with my colleagues so that they all have everything here. So like Lily, at formative.com. She can work together with me in this folder. Also, Lyles, he can also work with me. These are the two people on the call. And so now we've built the folder. Within the folder, I would put my curriculum, I'd start building my content. Maybe I would organize it even more, say this is unit 1, and this will be on motion. And within this, I would start to add each of my assignments. With Formative, you can build new formatives. You can also upload documents that you already have. This is one of my favorite features. I have a document in Google Docs, which I used to use. I don't know if you can see my screen. Do you see this thing pulling up?
Yes, yes.
So I was a physics teacher, so this was a document that I used to give to my students. So I can take this document, upload it into Formative, instead of going and printing at a copy machine or something, or emailing my students. I simply upload this document, and then I can click on the document. So here you can see the full screen. It's the exact same paper I would have given them otherwise. But I click here and say this will be a short answer. So here, this will be multiple choice. This will be maybe numeric. And this will be a drawing question where the student shows their work. And then I can just simply send this to my students right now, or I can add answer keys. In fact, in the other example that we had, one of the questions had an even cooler way to grade it. So I'll jump back over to the one we did together. Go back to my home to find the most recent ones. And when we were working together as a class, one of our questions, this one, I believe, had I graded this one, instead of adding an answer key, we added a rubric. So instead of a sliding scale to score, here, when I was grading, I can give points here just by clicking on the rubric. And so it makes it much easier to grade more complicated student responses, things that have a auto grading functionality, or that auto grading would not work for. And so hopefully at this point you're seeing just Formative can do so much. It's almost it's very easy to use. Most of our teachers say that it's extremely easy to use, but the power is almost endless because we've been doing this now for 9 years. So we built a lot of functionality. The other part with Formative, if we were to build a new Formative together in my team folder, someone already added their own folder too. So it's nice when you work together, because we had only built this folder, but someone else built this folder and started to build an assignment within here, which is very useful. So it's wonderful when you have colleagues and you work together. But what's beautiful about this is not only can we upload documents and transform them, you can upload things like a YouTube video. So for instance, if you were using, let's say, a YouTube video about Map to Me, let's see if we can find, let's say you grab a video, you can add questions on the video at specific timestamps.
Hola genios, soy el profe José Andalón y en este video te voy a explicar.
And so what's neat is you can add a video, like a question at 2 seconds, and then scroll over here and add another question at 28 seconds and another question here. So you can transform content, like we already showed. You can take a PDF or a Google Doc and turn that into an assessment. You can upload videos and turn those into assessments. You can take a website or an embedded file. For instance, one of my favorite things to do is insert content from other websites. So for instance, if I were to go to a different website here, I'll show you, if I Google here and they have a simulation, you simply can grab this, anything that has an embedded code. Where is the code? here, this code. You simply grab any content from another website. Where did I go? Here. And you can now paste this into Formative. And you can adjust there's a little too big to make this work, but so we have this content, and then notice the student can actually interact with it. And so if this is a circuit, you might build an assignment that is regarding, build this circuit and then ask questions about the circuit. So Formative, hopefully, as you think about it, is just extremely powerful. You can build very simple assessments or do nows or check-ins or homework or classwork. And then you can post these things that you create wherever you already have your classroom. So if you use, Blackboard or Moodle or Canvas or Schoology or Google Classroom, you can simply share these things to whichever system you're already connected with. You can also even send the grades back to your gradebook. So if you use another platform for a gradebook, Formative will connect with the gradebook and send that information back. So it just fits very nicely into the world of any teacher. So with that said, I don't want to speak too much more on this front. I think I've already probably shared the majority of what the website can do. The only thing I will end with is if you want to use Formative, you would simply come in here and click classes, click to add your students. Either you can add the classes directly, or you can sync with a platform that you already use like Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. If you already have a list of your students, you can automatically sync them in. And then you would simply build a Formative and assign the Formative to those students. And then you would be off to the races. If you don't already have something to build, we have a library, and the library has thousands upon thousands of Formatives that other teachers have made. I think of this mostly as examples so that you can think about how other teachers have built maybe a folder of Formatives or individual Formatives. And you can simply grab these Formatives and use them with your students. Or you can grab them and edit them, or just grab specific questions from the formative. You can also search or filter based on grades and subjects. So this is usually good inspiration if you're looking to get started, or if you already have something, you can just start with that. So I've talked too much. I'm going to pause here and see if I can answer any questions that I did not answer. I see a question around, is there any feature that allows student collaboration? So first, there are items that you can add that are built more for student collaboration. So when we were looking at the building of a formative, I've only shown you a couple examples here. Notice all these choices. It's almost sometimes intimidating because we have so many choices of items. But the ones that are more for student collaboration, so you can actually insert like a question and actually add part of the question is like a Google Sheet or a Padlet or some kind of Canvas where the students actually can work together. So that's something that a lot of students do or teachers do for collaboration. We probably are going to add more student-to-student feedback in the future, but we don't have that yet, where students can actually either review another student's work or work together. But right now, normally how teachers do student collaboration is they add items that have like a collaborative board within it in the formative. Any other questions before I end? And then we're going to do something else where I'm going to hand it over to Lily, and Lily's going to talk about how some other schools use formative or other organizations use formative already, maybe to give more inspiration. All right, I may have missed a question before, so feel free to post again. But in the meantime, I'm going to hand it over to Lily. And Lily, do you want to share your screen and show some other
Oh,
examples?
sure.
We have a participant raising her hand. She's Alejandra Casanova. So if you'd like to go ahead, Alejandra, to ask your question before Lily continues. Thanks so much,
Okay.
Greg. This was an awesome presentation.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
awesome, really awesome. I wanted to know if this is a tool that we have to use with Classroom, or we can use it without Classroom and use Formative from the start. I mean, I think it works better than Classroom,
Yeah, you do not need to use
much
Classroom.
better.
Thank you for that compliment.
Uh-huh.
You do not need to use it with any other platform.
Mhm.
If
Platform,
you
yeah.
want to use it with Canvas or Schoology or Classroom or something else, you can. It's an LTI application, so you can add it within, like it's an add-on in Google Classroom or Schoology. So you don't even have to come to Formative. You can just use it there, or you can use it completely here without ever using Google or any other platform.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Craig. Hello. So my name is Lily, and I'm actually a former student of tech. I'm an ex-tech. I went to college in tech. I graduated from there, and my brother goes there too. So I wanted to share a little bit about what other schools around the world are doing with Formative. It's really interesting to see all these different case studies, and I'm going to go really fast. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask anything. So this school is in Canada, and they were trying to find the answer to this. How can we deliver class activities and collect data in a simple way? They have a lot of different classes, and they do teach in French and in English. So what they do with Formative, they are creating all of their classes and assignments, all the class assignments and the tests and the exams that they have in the university in Formative, from all their different subjects, from science to arts. And what they're doing, they're allowing teacher collaboration. So in the US and in Canada, there's these PLCs, which are groups where teachers work together to create their class materials. So Formative has really allowed this school to create those class materials so they are not repeating materials. So each year they go back and they update or they change whatever they need, and they try to make it as easy to use as possible. They also are really focused on the data. So that's the way they identify how to support teachers. So many times we think, oh, Formative is going to help us how to support students. But in this case, they're using Formative to see how the administration of the school can support teachers. And then we have Vinh University. I particularly love this case because I work with them. It's a university from Vietnam. They teach medical students with Formative, which is super interesting. I never actually thought about using Formative for medical school, but they came to us and they were saying, hey, we think Formative, we've been using Formative for a long time, and we think this could be a really amazing tool to use in the entire school. And so what they do actually teach anatomy classes, biochemistry, physiology classes through Formative. And they've seen that through the feedback and through allowing, remember that whiteboard where you can add pictures to it, using that and using the other features around Formative, they've seen that it's not so hard for students to study, for example, anatomy, which is, using, I remember seeing some of my friends studying medicine, and it's really hard because they have to memorize so many things. So Formative has allowed them to study in an easier way and also get that teacher response instantly. They've also seen greater student engagement, and they are able to identify students' strengths and areas of improvement, which is really good because sometimes students can be a little bit shy, or they can be embarrassed about asking questions or showing that, I might need a little bit of help here. So teachers are able to jump right in and in the moment identify what their students might be struggling with. And also, for teachers, it has allow them to spend less time evaluating their students, and they're actually helping their students clarifying questions in the at the moment. And they are teaching medical students also like the English terms, which is like the English terms of medicine. So they are, in the frame time that they were able to teach them in Vietnamese, only now they are like in the same amount of time, they are also teaching them in the English medical terms. So that's really, really cool. We've also been working with this school institute in Toma. So one of their questions was, how can we provide certificates showing specific skills that have been developed during an upskilling course? Because what they do, they provide upskilling courses for flower growers in Colombia. So, oh, sorry, there's a typo there next to Colombia. I might have to let it see. But yeah, so what they're trying to do is they're trying to do that. And they are also trying to identify in what level and what skills they have developed. So with this, they're able to say, you know what, yes, you're ready to go into our next class. And we can see that, you've reached this level and these skills. So it's not only providing them a certificate of like, hey, you are doing, you just passed this course, we all go to these other like MOOC platforms and we get a certificate, but they don't really tell us exactly what skills we develop. So here they're able to identify those particular skills. And so whenever they, they want to prove they are, they've done this course, they can show, hey, I'm actually very good at these 3 things. So that's really cool. And also they are spending less time evaluating. And again, they're helping their students. We're also working with this school in Switzerland. You might have heard of Le Rosey, sorry. So BSLA is one of the best schools around the world. And what they're doing, they teach mainly high school students. And what they're doing is that, they wanted to help students along the way and be able to democratize like learning and student support around the different programs, because Soleil is offering, the International Baccalaureate program. They're offering like the traditional Swiss program. They're offering the American and the AP, AP level. No, it's not AP. The English curriculum. So they were like, okay, maybe the traditional students might feel left out because they are not an IVO student. And maybe so they wanted to offer the same tool and the same amount of support to all their students. So they've been using Formative for that purpose. They're able to give this personalized learning environment and student support to each student, because they want, one of the reasons why this school is so good and it's well known around the world is because they actually are very focused on helping each particular student and helping them in whatever they're particularly struggling with. So they're able to see that using Formative. So these are some of the case studies and some of the different schools and around the world that are using us. We have many more, but I was just thinking the one that I have worked with and the ones that I know how they are using it, and that I thought it was probably going to be of your interest. I don't know if you have any questions about it or any ideas about how you can use Formative in your classroom, or you have any more other questions for Craig or for me or anyone in the team.
Thank you very much, Lily.
You're very welcome.
All of these cases are very interesting. I thank you both for this wonderful interactive session. I can also certify that each time I see an formative interactive session, I learn more about it, about the power it has to assess to the performance assessment. I think this is my 3rd time I attend the session regarding Formative. So I've learned a lot of different things today, and this is amazing. But as you said before, it's an easy to use tool, and that's one of the greatest benefits it has. What we would be actually looking for in the near future would be to conduct a research call together with Formative and the IFE Living Lab and Data Hub to perform educational research. And I think it would be a great asset to measure students' competencies in Tec de Monterrey's most recent educational model, which is Tec 21. Because if you're able to classify and tag all of these formative assessments that you create in a course, then you could perform an interesting follow-up of each student's development of each of these competencies that they're trying to develop in a course. Let's see if we have any more questions. I think, let's see, we have a question from Roberto Martinez. He says, hello, Craig. May you please tell me how you did get the code from the simulation page? That's one question.
I just answered that briefly, but basically a lot of websites, a lot of the most popular learning tools, whenever they have content, like even YouTube or other websites, there's an option when you click share to grab the embed code or the iframe. Sometimes they call it embed, sometimes they call it iframe, but usually it has that little symbol with the two brackets with the line. Whenever you see that button, if you copy that, you can paste that code into Formative, specifically in a block that we call our embed block, the content block. So one of those item types that you saw when I opened that screen is an embed item type. If you paste that in, it will render that other website. We have some good resources on that. If you ever are curious about using Formative more, we have a website called help.formative.com, which I'll paste in the chat. And specifically, there's an article called Embed. If you Google that, and this is the article, and it talks all about that. It also teaches you how you can take websites that don't have the embed code, and you can create an embed code of that website and paste it into Formative. So almost any content you can grab and put into Formative and then ask questions about it. Or you can take a picture of the content if you just want to upload the picture as well. Sometimes people are worried the website will change.
Thanks. Thank you very much for that answer. I don't know if we have any more questions. Feel free to raise your hand so you can participate through your microphone. Meanwhile, I'm going to share the screen for a moment just to share with you that we're having a next seminar. I think it's going to be in next Friday. And this time it's related to data science. It's going to be presented by his sire. And the title of the seminar is Openness of Research Data, Visibility and Opportunities. So you can go ahead and use this QR code to learn more about the event. And we're going to be having registration, previous registration to the Zoom session, the same way you registered to this seminar. In a moment, I'll share the link in the chat. I'll stop sharing for a moment. All right. So thank you very much, all of you, for being here. Thanks again, Craig, Lily, and Lyles, for such a great presentation and for sharing with us how Formative can impact the way that professors can perform real-time follow-up of their students' assessment. I'm going to stop the recording now.